Better Call Saul is now officially over, man. My Mondays are literally just gonna have an empty void because I don't know if there's any other show that will keep me as interested as this show has. The whole universe of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul was executed nearly perfect. I don't think it's something that can just be easily replicated, but you know, if you have any ideas for any shows or movies or anything you want me to cover, make sure to tell me in the comment section below. The ending for this show is nearly perfect. The whole lawyer thing Saul was doing trying to defend himself was a great way to bring back the show full circle for all the fans. Before we start anything, I just want to say thank you to all the new viewers and subs I got, especially from covering this show. I just started doing this when like episode 10 came out, so I'm really happy that we're growing. This channel may still cover Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, but of course I'm going to try to cover as many shows and movies as possible. If you guys like my content, make sure to stick around for the other franchises I want to cover. The first little mini-series I want to do after this is breaking down and reviewing all the Spider-Man movies, and once I'm done dropping all those videos, I'm going to rank them all from worst to best. So if that interests you, make sure to subscribe with noties on. Enough of the talk, and let's get into the final breakdown of Better Call Saul. The first thing we see is a flashback / missing scene of the episode Bagman in season 5, where Saul and Mike are walking with $7 million in cash trying to deliver it to Lalo so he can be bailed out. They finally get to some water and Saul just goes crazy drinking it. He's like slurping that like crazy. He's splashing his face on it like damn, I don't blame him. If I was out there walking for damn near 2 days drinking my pee, I would be going crazy too. Saul and Mike sit down to rest, and Saul mentions that they are literally sitting on $7 million in cash. This reminds me a lot of the first season where Saul questions why him and Mike didn't take the money from the Kettlemans.
No one on God's green earth knew we had it. We could have split it 50-50. We could have gone home with $800,000 each, tax-free.
Your point being?
Why didn't we? I know what stopped me. You know what? It's never stopping me again.
Mike explains that he can't just take the money because he's working for the people that need Lalo bailed out for their plan. Saul then goes on a rant talking about how he would build a time machine with $6 million and that the people wouldn't find him there. Saul then asks Mike where in time he would go if he had a time machine. Mike at first says December 8, 2001 because this is the day that his son gets killed from the crooked cops trying to get him involved with taking bribes. Mike then corrects himself and says March 17th, 1984 because that was the first day he took a bribe as a police officer. He blames himself for what happened to his son due to him telling his son to take the bribe, but his son ended up getting killed by his partner. Mike asks Saul where he would go and Saul responds with May 10, 1965. The reason for this is because he wants to invest money in a company that is taking off soon so he can make more money. Mike looks at them very disappointed, asking, "That's it? Money?" Mike asks again if there's anything else he would change. Saul seems like he's on the verge of tears here trying to keep it all together because deep down he knows there's a lot that he would change if given the opportunity. He eventually says that he's rested and starts making his way back home. We then cut to exactly where we left off from last time. Gene is running straight to his car so that he can make it home while we hear Marion talking to the dispatcher. She's describing what his car looks like and she's also able to read the license plate and tell the dispatcher what it is and where he's heading. He gets home and is able to take his box of belongings and burner phone. Gene checks outside and the cops are swarming around his place. Gene climbs out the window and starts making a run for it, but he hears a helicopter. He makes the run for it, trying not to be seen. He gets into a tunnel and starts walking, but cops surround him from both exit points of the alley. Gene improvises by going inside the garbage can. This reminds me a lot of season 1 when he was looking for files trying to figure out the Sandpiper case. He opens his box to look for the vacuum service card and he finds it. He looks on the back trying to memorize it so he can call. Gene knocks over the box when opening up his burner phone and ends up spilling all of his belongings, including his diamonds needed to pay for the services, into the trash. The police start banging on the trash and Gene gets out with his hands up. Gene has finally been caught. We then cut to Gene sitting, listening to his commercials being played while the cops watch. Gene makes a phone call to Cinnabon telling his employee that they're gonna need a new manager. We then see Gene walking back and forth in his holding cell talking to himself, and he punches the door after realizing how stupid his decisions were up to this point. He falls on the floor and after, he looks up in the message written in the wall that says, "My lawyer will ream your ass." He starts laughing because he's given an idea for a way to get off clean. This reminds me a lot when Gene wrote SG was here in the season 2 opening. Gene bangs on the door again asking for a call and we cut to Bill Oakley picking it up. This call shocks him and he drops all his belongings on the floor when he hears his voice. Gene slick talks Bill into taking the case and defending him. Gene says this is a career defining moment and that he has to take it. Bill then asks Gene where he sees this ending. Gene says with him on top like always. We then cut to Bill and Gene getting ready to talk to the DA, and Gene sees Mary Schrader through a window, who is Hank's wife. Mary was supposed to be a cameo in the first season of the show when Chuck was getting taken care of in the hospital, but they scrapped it because they didn't want the scene to lose its importance, especially since that's where we learned that Chuck's condition was mental. The DA starts listing the charges, and it adds up to life and 190 years. They offer 30 years to him if he takes the plea. Gene asks Mary to come and sit with him during the negotiations, and she agrees. Mary starts talking about her husband and Gomez. She claims that Gene helped Walter do all the horrible things that he did for the money, and that no matter what happens to Gene, it will not be enough to pay for the damage caused. Gene then starts telling that Hank and her are victims, but that so is he due to Walter and Jesse kidnapping him. He's trying to convince them that he was forced to do everything because of how scared he was. He also brings up the time that 10 men in prison that were loose ends were killed in 2 minutes during Breaking Bad. This all happened because of Lydia, but not Walters, but they can't even prove that it wasn't him. The DA, with a smile on his face, says that the jury will never believe that. Gene says that all he needs is one juror to believe him. Mary leaves in anger after knowing that the DA will start negotiating with him. He ends up getting it down to 7.5 years and requests to be put into the nicest prison facility possible. He then requests 1 pint of Bluebell mint chocolate ice cream, and I just want to say that even though Gene is like a piece of shit, he has amazing taste, and if you don't like mint chocolate chip, you're as bad as Todd.
No! 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 I said nothing, but that's tough!
When the DA starts leaving, Gene says that he has something he hasn't talked about yet. Gene then starts describing the whole Howard situation. They immediately know what he's talking about and explains to Gene Kim already turned herself in a month ago. This leaves Gene with no wiggle room, and he has to take the 7.5 year plea deal. Honestly, that's still really good for all the crimes he's been listed of being part of. We then cut to Saul sleeping and being woken up by Walter White. This is a flashback to when Walter and Saul were waiting to be transported by Ed to disappear in Breaking Bad. Walter wakes up Saul because he's trying to fix the pipe that is causing him to not have hot water. Walter starts fixing it, but while he is, Saul asks the same question he asked Mike earlier in the episode. Walter then explains that it's scientifically impossible for time travel to happen, and takes the question a bit too literal. Saul then re-asks the question, but this time without including the time machine, since that's the whole thing that triggered Walter. Walter answers by talking about gray matter, the company that Walter founded but left too early because it ended up being a multi-billion-dollar company. Saul butts in saying that he could have helped secure legal funds from the whole situation, but Walter says that Saul is the last lawyer he would have went to. It's interesting to me that Walter would go back there instead of right before he started cooking. The life that he was living when he was with his family was the least happy he was in his life. Instead of trying his best to make things work with that lifestyle, he wouldn't do it and would just go all the way back. Walter then asks Saul if he had any regrets. He mentions a time where he did a slip and fall and actually got hurt because of it. It's very depressing hearing this because this is all after Chuck dying, Howard dying, and even Kim leaving him. He's either trying his best to forget that any of this happened, or he genuinely doesn't regret anything. Walter then asks Saul, so you were always like this, and you can see the smile from his face fade down into a frown. We then come back to Gene being flown into New Mexico to get charged. On the plane ride, we see Bill going to the bathroom and he gets stopped by Gene. Gene then asks Bill what the DA is going to do, and Bill says that there's no physical evidence, so nothing is going to happen to Kim. He then explains that Kim could still be sued because she hand-delivered the note to Cheryl. It seems like Cheryl might actually go through with the lawsuit because Bill tells Gene that she's already lawyer shopping as they speak. We cut back to Bill coming out of the bathroom, and Gene stops him to tell him that he has more info to trade on the Howard case. Bill warns that this could really screw over Kim, and Gene responds saying, "You don't understand, it's really good ice cream." At this point in the episode, I genuinely did not like him anymore, and I was really on the fence about if I wanted him to get out or not. We then cut back to Kim talking to her work friends outside about an upcoming baby shower. At first, I thought it was her, so I was really scared that she got pregnant, but I'm pretty sure they're just talking about someone else completely. And we see her leaving work early so that she can volunteer at a law office. She's back in Dog Review, taking the show full circle once again. In the middle of all this, she gets a call from another lawyer who explains the whole situation with Gene. We then cut to Gene being taken into court, and he sees Kim is there spectating. Saul then under his breath says, "It's showtime," knowing that this is going to be the last time in court. Maria and Gomez's wife is also appearing in court. The judge starts talking about how the deal that was made from the DA is very light and forgiving. Saul then interrupts the judge by asking to talk on the stand so that she can understand the whole situation. Gene then gets on the stand and says everything that he said to the EA when negotiating, but the difference this time is that he's admitting to doing everything and taking full responsibility. Bill tries to stop him, but since Saul is defending himself, he has more power to himself. Saul is then put under oath and he looks back at Kim. He says he lied about her being involved in Howard's murder and only wanted her to show up so she can hear everything. He states that even though he wasn't there for all the murders and meth cooking, that he was still willing to participate in all of it. Bill is still trying to save this case by trying to discard all that he is saying to the judge, but the judge denies all of it. Saul then starts talking about the Howard situation and starts getting emotional. He says that Kim was able to start a new life, but deep down, Saul was the only one truly running from everything. He also starts talking about Chuck, and the camera pans out to the exit sign, which is a direct reference to the infamous chicanery scene. States that he should have tried harder to help Chuck instead of hurting him. He even admits to causing Chuck's death here.
What was all that? That thing with your brother, that wasn't even a crime.
It was.
The judge tells Saul to sit down, but Jimmy corrects her by saying the name is James McGill. He sits back down and looks back at Kim while the lawyers start arguing. We then cut to the last ever flashback that the show will ever have. We see Jimmy getting the groceries for Chuck like he always did before. Chuck then looks at Jimmy and tells him that he could have someone take care of him instead and just bring the supplies every day instead of Jimmy. Chuck asks Jimmy why he would waste his time like that when he's trying to start his own firm as well. Jimmy responds saying that it's because they're both brothers and that he knows that Chuck would do the same for him. Jimmy starts complaining about the clients he has, and Chuck butts in saying that there's no shame in going back and changing your path. Jimmy then asks Chuck, when have you ever changed your path? Camera pans to a book that Chuck is reading called The Time Machine. There's a lot of things that this could mean, but my interpretation of it at first is that if Chuck had a time machine, he would treat Jimmy differently growing up, knowing that he's part of the reason why Jimmy is like that during the Better Call Saul timeline. The Time Machine is all about how humanity is destroying itself with social classes. This could be a direct parallel to how Jimmy McGill starts destroying himself throughout the series. This could also mean that when Jimmy was confessing, he was changing his future when he could have only had 7 years instead of the amount he ended up getting. The next scene, we see Jimmy on the bus getting transported to the prison. He's recognized by somebody on the bus and everybody else starts recognizing him. They start chanting Better Call Saul, which I honestly love this scene. It just feels like a final goodbye to all the fans. And also, it's kind of funny to me how Saul Goodman is literally a worldwide celebrity at this point. We next see Saul making dough, which brings the Gene timeline full circle once again. Jimmy is then called by the officer, being told that his lawyer is here to see him. He goes in the room and he sees that Kim is the one who requested him. Apparently, she didn't officially step down as a lawyer, but I thought she did. But hey man, I am not a lawyer, so I do not know if like you're just allowed to do that, so how dare I question mommy Kim. Anyways, Kim offers Jimmy a cigarette against the wall. This has been their tradition since the start of the series, and I love how they just do it here to really pull at our strings. As they light the cigarettes, you can see a little color showing that this moment will be the only color Gene ever sees in his life again. Kim then says, "You had him down to 7 years." Jimmy then says, "Yeah, I did." Kim then reveals that Jimmy is facing 86 years, which tells us that he will die in prison. Kim is walking out of the prison and she sees Jimmy outside in the basketball courts looking at her. While she walks away, he does the finger point guns that Kim did to him in season 5. Kim walks away and the show ends while the camera pans out till we can't see Jimmy anymore. What an ending. I see a lot of people that didn't really like it, but personally I think it was the most fitting for a show like this. Saul finally faces the consequences of his actions that he's been running from all his life. It really is such a bittersweet ending, and I'm really happy about it. Obviously, I'm sad it ended, but for the ending, I enjoyed it. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to hit that sub button when noti's on. Thank y'all so much for watching. Thank you so much for everyone that subbed because of this show. I just want to say thank you, again. I really appreciate all the support. I just started, and I'm getting a lot of support already, so I just want to say, again, thank you. I love y'all so much. And SA out. Peace.